Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon podcast. So, if you've been listening, we are over 50 episodes right now. But today is my first guest in Indonesia, so I'm very excited. So, we have Johnny Widodo here with us. He's the CEO of Ringan Technology. And while doing my research, right, I actually found some videos of him exercising in the gym, like lifting weights. So, he also famous for being the strongest CEO in Indonesia. So I'm privileged to have him as well. And a bit about
My
background,
privilege also, Bob.
yeah, a bit background as well about Johnny. So he has right now he is in the fintech space, financial services space, but he has a number of experiences across agritech, e-commerce, and maybe I will ask him some questions about that as well, and a number of questions on the Indonesia because he's my first guest from Indonesia. So he has also many awards. So just to name a few awards, just to brief you a bit. So he has like Nanyang Outstanding Young Alumni, and in 2020 he has written books, right? So some of his books include Survive, Plan, Grow, Kiat, Menghadapi, Gelombang, Krisis, Membangun Negeri, melalui startup. So he is well versed with the startup space as well, and also one more, maybe I can ask him about the books as well. Tukang Insinyur, jadi boss. Okay. Uh, and Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here today, Bob, and a privilege to be your first guest from Indonesia
Okay.
after your 50 odds episodes. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. All right, so my first question to all my guests is, what is your favorite kung fu movie?
Wow, it has to be Enter the Dragon, man. Bruce Lee,
Bruce Lee.
the famous guy the first Chinese guy that went to US, right, and break the Hollywood. Yeah.
Yep. Good choice there. Good choice there. So, do you because Enter the Dragon, right? I would say is quite an old movie, and Bruce Lee is a legend, of course. Do you
Yeah.
remember how you were watching the movie? Was it on TV? Was it in cinema?
It was in the cinema actually. Well, not in cinema. That you know that. Well, now you know that. How old am I, right? That Betamax video, man.
Oh, videotapes. Okay. I
Yeah,
also
the
said. I
Betamax
also
video.
said.
Yeah.
Oh, so you rent the videotapes?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. And what made it your favorite kung fu movie?
Well, I guess that's when you really see a guy who is so famous and like he has his own style and he during that movie actually he also go against all these different nationalities, right?
Mm.
On the fighters, right? So I think when you were a kid and you watch this kind of movie, it's pretty cool and like it sticks in your mind and you're even trying to mimic his style, on the bed, right? So trying when you were young. So yeah, it's a typical vengeance movie, but like the revenge movie, but it sticks with you, lah. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. So yeah, that is a good choice indeed because Bruce Lee is the pioneer of kung fu movies.
Yes.
He is like now every single kung fu star is basically trying to be like him.
Yes. Yes.
So I think Johnny in a way as well is you are a pioneer in the startup space in Indonesia. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. So maybe can you tell us a bit? So I did a quick introduction, but maybe tell us a
Sure.
bit of your background as well.
Sure. Thanks. So I think I'm Indonesian born. Spent quite a bit of years in Singapore and US. So I lived there for a couple of years. So I think my first few years I was more on the semiconductor role and a consultants. But I think the past 8 to 10 years I've been in the digital world. Been doing payment, agriculture, automotive, and also now is in the fintech space lah. So been starting a few companies also from zero to one to 100. Now is another one that we are trying to ramp up lah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I believe you've been part of a few startups as well, a few famous startups
Yes.
in
So I was
Indonesia.
part of. I was the director of OVO. I was the CEO of OLX Indonesia. I was the CEO of beli.mobil.gue.co.id. Now I'm the CEO of Ringan Technology Indonesia.
Is there a reason that you're part of these startups? Like that you could join the corporate, you could join consulting, and how did you get into the startup space?
So I guess back then, when I was looking at the startup space, I feel that that is where the direction of the whole industries, right? Because at the end of the day, because industries move based on the demand of the customers. And we realize actually customers back then customers, the younger they are, right? All these Gen Z, millennials, Gen Y, right? Becoming less patient with things because customers really sees things instant. Unlike my time, you are very patient, right? You watch movie still with the you have to roll it first, and then
wait for the rewind.
Exactly, right? So, but I think today you can just anywhere you want, then you just point it, that kind of thing, right? And that movie you have to be patient. If they say that video is being rented by somebody else, you have to wait. Now, anytime, right? You just open YouTube, whatever, your Netflix, whatever. So these younger customers are trained to be very, I would say, very, very instant-minded. And that actually creates the supply side, right? Where the company will need to adapt and have to be different, have to be more serving towards the customers, right? And that's, I think, when the digitalization kicks in. So whether you start out from the new company, or even if you are a very conventional business, you will need to do something to make sure that you are not being left behind. And from that perspective, I think when I worked back then, I feel that, okay, at one point, I have to do that pivoting and make sure that I'm also not being left behind and learn something, right? And build something for that next generation of the customers. So that's when I decide that I have to go to the digital world. Yeah.
Yep. So from the digital world, you also work across different industries. You got
Yes.
automotive, you got agriculture,
Yeah.
now in the fintech. So what do you learn across these industries?
So I guess in the end, I guess the way I see it is like some industries they get disrupted earlier by the digitalizations. So for example, if we talk about e-commerce or ride-hailing business, uh, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, that's when they started. Today, you see pretty much things are very much already very disrupted, right? People are so used to really buying from the e-commerce. Previously, a lot of people, when they want to buy luxury goods, they only see in the e-commerce, and then they check the physical in the offline store. Then they come back only if there is a discount. But today, it became a normal, right? A new normal where, especially after COVID, people just have that trust and confidence to buy. Part of it is really because of the payment business where you have that virtual account. Part of it is also because there is a strong belief that whenever there is a dispute, the platform will side on those customers first before they solve everything, right? Because the money will be held first. So looking at that, I think that evolutions, right, happens across all the industry as well. So when you ask me why I move and all that, right? Because at the different stage of my life, I see different industries are growing, and I'm kind of the person who likes to do and build and have a lot of, okay, maybe I shouldn't say problem, but challenges that I can try to solve. So that's also one of the reasons why I look at things where I feel that, okay, this is the place where I can make an impact and solve problems. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. So from all the different industries today, you are part of Ringan. So for the audience, Ringan in Malay, it means light. So it means lightweight is
Yes.
Ringan. So tell us
Although
more
I'm not
about
lightweight.
tell us more about the what is your role now with Ringan?
Yeah, so I'm basically the CEO of the company. So I've joined this firm for about 6 months ago. What is my role? Basically now is more on pivoting the whole business. Previously, we were focusing more on those consumptive loan. So now we are trying to focus on productive loan, going towards the small, medium enterprise. Basically also to support the whole government initiatives for the financial inclusions, right? So, so as a CEO now, basically, yeah, across all the board, right, from legal, HR, finance, operations, sales, pretty much everything, marketing and all that. So running the business now, and trying to crack and grow the business. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. Right. So you talk about digitalization, and so I'm in Malaysia, and you have experience in Singapore as well. So I believe in Malaysia and Singapore, what drives innovation is of course the startups. So because of Grab and many, now we have the e-wallet payments and we have the digital. So recently I was in Jakarta, and still I cannot use the Wave, pay Wave. Or even PIN. I have to put my credit card and then I have to sign. Right. So in your view, like how can startups, what are your hopes for the payment system in Indonesia?
Sure. So I think if you look at the whole payment thing, the move is more from cash to cashless, right? But then when they move from cash to cashless, there are two ways of cashless, in a way, right? I mean, well, maybe three ways, right? One, the cashless is going by card base, right? That includes your debit, credit, tapping, whatever, blah blah blah, right? So your e-money also has those tapping, right? The wallet, right? So where the information is actually stored in your card. But there's also another one, which is basically everything is in the cloud, which is pretty much doing your QR scanning, right? And of course, the third one is all that virtual account transfer, and whatever, right? So that whenever you buy something from the e-commerce, and then there's some payment gateway that's running behind that scene, right? So if you were to ask today in Indonesia, I think it's a conscious effort to skip that part of that wave thing, right? I think the government is making the GPN. That GPN functions like Visa or MasterCard, pretty much. So they are like the toll road, right, for the whole thing, right? So it's a conscious effort actually to really make it to be more national belonging, right? And the payment business now is really pretty much, I would say, has reached that level of quite a maturity, I would say, where if today I go to the hawker centers on the road, people don't use cash anymore, right? Pretty much they use QR, right? In fact, one of the story that I want to share with you is yesterday I went and take a taxi. It was at about 3 o'clock, right, in the afternoon. And I look at the driver, right? He looked like sleepy, right, from the back. Right? I say, "Pa, what happened, right? Are you sleepy?" Then he just said, "Oh, no, I'm just feeling very lethargic and tired." I say, "Why?" He says, "Since morning, I never get cash. I haven't eaten anything because I have so many people that take my taxi, but everybody pay cashless. I don't have cash to buy my food from morning for my breakfast." Then I was like, wow, that's something, right? It's really like becoming very common, I would say. So if you ask what's the hope, I think hopefully that adoption continues. Hopefully people can use and continue using not only whenever there's a promo or cashbacks. It became part of the lifestyle because at the end of the day, it solved a lot of problems, including your small change, your fake money, and makes life simpler, right? You don't even need to bring your wallet; you just bring your handphone, right? So.
Yeah. So interesting to hear that it skipped the credit card. So when I was
not the credit card. I would say the part of all the tapping with the card, right? Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. When I was in Jakarta, I remember I went to Java Jazz Festival and then I had to buy the BNI card. So it's like a top-up prepaid card.
Okay.
Yeah, so that top-up prepaid card.
So that is different because I think they are collaborating, right? So they try to own that ecosystem.
Yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, that top-up card is quite interesting, but my own other credit cards, that one is skipped. So straight to QR. So that's why the taxi driver do not get any cash at the moment. So yeah, like you have vast experience across the startup space, and you also have a lot of experience in Singapore as well. So in the startups in Indonesia, how is it different from the rest of, let's say, Southeast Asia?
So I think what is the most interesting part is Indonesia is 270 million people. Yeah. So if you compare with Singapore, I don't know, now probably 4.5, 5 million the most, right?
Yeah.
So in principle, right? If you buy something and you get just a penetration rate of 10%, that's already 27 million. That's like freaking 5 times bigger than Singapore already, just like that, right? With your 10%, when you have to conquer the whole Singapore, I'm still 5 times bigger, right? So that really makes it to be very lucrative, I think, from the perspective of that sizable market opportunities. The second one, I would say, the penetration of the internet, right, in Indonesia is really, really high as well, right? So I know that even though in some location they say it's already 5G, but you still cannot make a call. So compared to Singapore, but if you see, I think today, right, almost everyone has smartphone, right? Even if you go to those suburb areas, you go to those cleaners, on the road, they basically have a smartphone. May not be the latest model and all that, yeah, but at least they have a smartphone, and that actually brings that literacy in your internet, in your understanding of the digitalizations, right? And so if you ask why the startup in Indonesia can blossom a lot, is a blend of three things, right? So one, I think the investors look at Indonesia and say, oh, these are a vast opportunity. I go in, I can conquer something. Second, in general, Indonesians, they are because they have more people, so potentially you have more entrepreneurs compared to those statistically, right? Again, if you have like 1% entrepreneurs, that's already 2.7 million, right? So you need half of that in Singapore, So statistically, seems to be more again, right? And number three, I would say, is the combination also from the government, right? Because I think recent five years or so, I would say, maybe 5 to 8 years, right? I think the government has taken conscious effort in making sure this is moving, right? There are a few things that they do, right? One, for example, they set up those matchmaking events every year, so investors, founders meet. They are in the one. One of the one that they built. They call it the Nexticorn event, right? Second, I think the government also consciously trying to build funds from the state-owned enterprise, right? So that's include your Merah Putih Fund, BRI Ventures, BNI, Mandiri, Mandiri Capital and all that. So all these guys basically consciously trying to build and putting that amount of money, right? And number three, I think consciously also the government is trying to make the talents, making that talents, generating that talents, right? So I think under the brain, I think previously also they make a lot of what you call it, I think collaborations with the universities, Tsinghua universities, and I think with the Indian university, I can't remember. I think it's one of the guy, I think Bangalore or something. Consciously sending our talents go there under the LPD programs, and then also sending the our management training program and all that, specifically trying to generate that digital talent, right? And of course, the investors is also, or even the startup also trying also to create that digital talent. So a lot of all these guys really go to US and really do recruitment roadshows, to Stanford and all these places, and they call it the pulang kampung, right? So pretty much they're saying like, come, go back to Indonesia, build Indonesia, because we can support you on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, that kind of thing, right? So I guess that makes creates that innovations culture, and because of all the support that happens, I think they start to blossom and grow quite a bit, I would say.
Thank you, Johnny. That is very important in it. So, right, talent, funding, events, basically creating that ecosystem is very important. I think one thing from the outside I see is that you have a lot of local unicorns. You have local startups also, like you previously you were from OLX and now you are in Ringan. And of course, Indonesia is famous for Tokopedia and Traveloka, Gojek, companies like that. So like, is it harder for outside companies to go in, or is it easier to build unicorns in Indonesia?
So I guess how would I put it here? So it really depends on how you see this, right? So I wouldn't say harder for a company to come to Indonesia, because at the end of the day, even if you see all these guys who grow and big, behind the investors is also coming from overseas, right? Many of them are the money coming from different places, like Sequoia, SoftBank, and even if it's Indonesian ventures, I think the limited partners also come from overseas. So actually, that money is actually in a way is a foreign direct invest. Well, I would say foreign investment. I would say. So I guess it is neither nor, right, on whether it's harder or not for a foreign company to set it up and work here, right? Because I mean, maybe I give an examples of those that are non-startups yet. Samsung, Hyundai, Toyota, been here for donkey years, right? And they're quite successful, right? And I think most of the recent Chinese brand, Wuling, and then Cherry, I think they're also building a very nice car now. The first generation was really bad, but now it was hit on the market, right? They really crack it, in a way. With whatever value proposition that they bring to the market. And so it's not saying that it's harder or easier, but I would say it's if you see the opportunity and then you come in and solving the right problem and bringing the right product and being executed by the right person, I think you get there.
Thank you, Johnny. So do you have any advice? So like maybe two questions. One is, why do you think these unicorns succeed in Indonesia? Is it because the population, and is it because the localization that they are successful in Indonesia?
So there are a few reasons why I think they are successful, right? I think first thing first, they are solving the massive problem for everyone. That's number one, right? Number two, I think they come in at the right time when all the investors are still having that appetite and really pushing it through with them. Number three, I think they bring the right product. Of course, not in the beginning, but they bring in the right product through iterations and solve that problem. Number four, you have the right person to really execute all this, right? And at the end of the day, I mean, honestly, if you ask, becoming unicorn and all that is it became a byproduct, right? Because if you really get it right, and then you grow the business and that business accepted by the market, it's very natural and conscious where more investors coming in, and that company will continue to grow and grow and grow and become bigger, right? So again, but I guess the bigger challenge now is really more about unicorn is a status, but how can you make sure that you build a more sustainable business where you have the right unit economics and you can really actually run independently without depending on the investor money anymore. I think that's also very key. Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. That is very honest and wise advice, because we know all the unicorns, for example, Grab, or all these unicorns, they are keep raising funds, keep getting investor money, and of course, the more successful they are, the more attention they get, and the more investor money they get.
Correct.
So it's a never-ending cycle of raising. So, like you said, unit economics. Hopefully, they will be profitable and things like that without more investment coming in. So, like you said, for businesses going into Indonesia, if they solve the right problem, they will be successful. Any other advice you have for that?
I think partnership definitely helps, because that really shorten your cycle of understanding the whole market, understanding the whole culture. And I would say that you need to be prepared to fail also, because doesn't mean that big market, it's not as if like if you sell fried tofu everywhere, definitely people will buy your fried tofu, right? So yeah, people will buy, but are you going to be able to hit the kind of scale that you want it to be anyway? So I guess it's really more about making sure that you also open to, if let's say it's a overseas company, right? So it's always the questions of uh, localizations or globalizations or localizations, right? But easier said than done, again, right? Most of them will say, oh, because I have 10 countries, I want to have a product that can fit 80%, 20% is customized. But in reality, right, not every country will always have the same problem and challenges, and even the requirement could be very different. Even when you have those technical stuff on doing something in, for example, in Mexico, may not be applicable in here, right? So certain data may not be here. So I guess all those companies also has to be very aware that they need to be prepared to make that investment and do a little bit, I would say, adjustment on whatever product they have, right? Or else, pretty much, I would say that you will come here and doomed to fail, right? Because whatever that looks nice in Mexico may not be fit in here, right? So, example.
Thank you. All right, that is good advice indeed. So you are also the strategic advisor for Seeds, which
Yes.
helps a lot of startups as well. So how do you help these startups with Seeds, and what are the most common challenges they face?
Sure. Sure. So SITS is actually a social investing, right? So it's a very simple model, right? Basically, what they're trying to do now is Gen Z for people to make an investment in shares, crypto, and all that. You will need to have a lot of learning and understanding. So what this SITS trying to do is, let me teach you how to do it through a tournament. You make a payment of a small token, say $2-3, right? You play, and you really play with the stock exchange, real stock exchange live, but with the money that I gave you in the game. So you pay that $2-3, maybe you will get about 7,000 US dollars in your bank account, so-called, and then you really trade, and then whoever win gets some prize money. But the purpose is really to entice people to learn and experience real examples of how does this stock market actually behaving, and so that's what they do, right? And how actually I help out as the advisors is pretty much more on a few things, right? So for example, more on one business development, right? So helping them to get to the network that I know. On both sides. Yeah. So business development on growing the business, also business development on the investor side, right? Second, talent. So for example, they may need certain talents. I may have some connection. I can help introduce, or even like help them to tell them, like, if let's say you have this kind of problem, you will need probably this type of people with this kind of qualifications. Helping them also to see some product inputs sometimes, or even like a go-to-market strategy on how they develop all this, right? But really more on, I would say, I'm more on those not on the active role, more on the passive role. So when there is a question, then I answer. If no, then I'll just leave whatever they do, right? So yeah. Because if not, it's also not nice, right? In the end, at the end of the day, there's a CEO there who is running the whole thing, right? And I'm running my whole company as well, right? So you don't want to have two sons in the company. It's very confusing. Right? So
yeah, thanks, Johnny. Yeah, so thank you for answering those questions. So maybe we have in a short time answered a lot of very good questions, good answers from you. So maybe what are you excited about in, like, what are you working on now, and what are you excited about in the near future?
So yeah, I'm basically now uh, trying to solve that segment where those are the guys who need quite a significant, sizable amount of money to expand their business, and somehow, somewhere, they are unable to have that access, or even if they have that access from the bank, it's still not enough. And we are trying to find some innovative solutions on how can these guys carry it, and trying to get them to grow, basically. So professionally, I think that's what I'm trying to do. I think personally, I'm still continuing doing my workout, continue to train and compete in the strongman competition, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Getting to that, why do they call you the strongest CEO in Indonesia?
Oh, because I compete in the strongman competitions a few times in Indonesia, and I won the novice bronze medal last year.
Oh, and what does strongman mean? Is that a competition where you see who can carry the most weight?
No, there are many different things, right? So, for example, there is one one event where you need to pull a bus, like a 12-ton bus. Then you need to flip like a tire. For the tire is 250 kilo, 300 kilo. And then there are some competitions where you have to arm over arm pull a car. That car is probably about 3 tons, 4 tons. And you do a car lift. Also, that car is probably about, I would say, 2.5, 3 tons. So there's some atlas stone that you have to carry and then bring it up. That stone 100, 120 kilo. So that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So it's bronze medal and it was a national competition?
Yes.
Oh my God. So out of 270 people, you're number 3. Wow. And it's quite amazing because you also have so many roles from seeds to Ringan. Like not many CEOs that I interview a lot of CEOs on this podcast, a lot of them in Malaysia and Singapore. I don't know any of them who exercise. But you're not only exercise, you are competing.
Competing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm also helping out quite a bit, yeah, with my alma mater, right? So I sit in their in Nanyang Business School alumni advisory board as well, and then I serve as the president also for the alumni NTU Alumni Indonesia chapter.
Wow.
So helping out quite a bit here and there.
Wow. Okay, last question before we go. How do you do that? Because like I imagine you have to work, and being a CEO is not like, you just sit around, but you're so busy.
Yeah.
And then how can you like train after work? Is it what do you do?
So I guess the keyword is only one, right? Discipline, right? So
Wow.
it's yeah, I always tell people that discipline, right? You just, I mean, like for example, my case, I every day wake up at 4:30, 4:40 the most, and by 5 o'clock I'll be in the gym doing my workout. Right, I have my own gym, by the way, at home. So so by 6:30 I'm done. By 6:30 I'm done. Then I go to work, right? And even if it's Saturday, Sunday, public holiday, same. I wake up the same time, right? And still work out at the same time, right? So even if I go on a business trip, I still wake up at the same time and work out at the same time, right? And why is that so, right? Because the moment you make that changes here and there, for sure you will not be able to do it in the later stage, right? Because at night then there'll be a lot of things that sometimes you stay back at work, sometimes your friend asks you for dinner, blah 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 blah. So you can't, right? On those activities, I try to squeeze in time, like today, for example. Or if I really cannot do it, I'll just tell the guy, look, we do it on the weekend. You want, you don't want, never mind. so, so I do some mentoring also. So typically, like for example, I think last month or 2 months ago, I would say, I mentored 13 mentees, right, startups, right, and basically I have to commit half an hour for each of that startups. So I tell them that, look, every Saturday morning, I'll do it for 1 month, right? So every Saturday morning, boom, start from 8 until 11, start from 8 until 11, like two session done.
Wow,
So, yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. I think I've not clapped on the podcast, but I like to clap for that.
Thank you.
So I really like. I used to hear that CEOs wake up at 5 a.m. Now I hear, now that I know you wake up at 4:30 to work out, and wow, that is. I really respect that you work out before you start work. I know because as the day comes, you will not find the time anymore. Thank you so much, Johnny, for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I know you're
No
very
worries. Thank
busy.
you for having me here also. Really
Thank you, Johnny.
appreciate it. And finally,
Problem.
hopefully one day we can meet each other offline now, so we can
Sure.
have.
Sure. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.